sprang up on the edge of downtown Macon. First a hotel, then a vaudeville hall, then in 1921, a theater called the Douglas. It filled a need in the gritty, segregated culture of the Deep South. The Douglas was Macon's first theater that accepted the patronage of African Americans.
It was a refuge. I attended this theater every week, sometimes every other day.
I got you got you, all got you and got you.
It not only welcomed blacks, but in its heyday it also gave them a place to go to see African American vaudeville acts, with names like the Chicago Hotshots and Butterbeans and Susie. It played movies, billboarded as stupendous Negro motion pictures, with all-star colored casts. In a city where blacks had few cultural amenities, the Douglas was there for Macon residents like Chuck Phillips.
Full to the capacity every weekend, overcrowded, a lot of fun.
But when segregation ended, so too did the need for the Douglas. After 50 years of use, it fell into disrepair, abandoned. Then Macon turned the restoration of the Douglas into a civic project.
What we found that was fortunate was that the building had not been vandalized extensively, and that's really quite incredible to have a building with this much plaster detail still intact.
Last month, the Douglas reopened, its 1921 decor restored, its 300 seats reconfigured into an ornate music hall and movie house. And its keepers hired Chuck Phillips as its film projectionist. Phillips is the restored theater's link to its historic past. His uncle also ran the projector here for 45 years. His aunt played the piano during silent movies early in this century.
The piano that my aunt played was placed right here in the front of this stage, and as the movie was going, she would play the music.
Eventually, the Douglas showed the first talking movie, The Jazz Singer, featuring the actor named Al Jolson performing in blackface before a black audience. But the theater was versatile. It featured live performances by Cab Calloway and Ma Rainey and Bessie Smith.
In the 1950s, it gained a new life as a kind of rock and roll hall. And they started a talent show on Saturdays called the Teenage Party.
Loving you.
It was during one of those amateur talent shows that a young Macon resident named Otis Redding showed up and won first prize, launching Redding's short but stellar musical career. The Douglas also featured performances by James Brown and Little Richard before the theater finally expired, staying closed for a quarter century.
Welcome to the Douglas Theater.
It's open again, playing highbrow movies to a multicultural crowd, exploring its newfound potential as a living historical artifact.
Has a lot of character.
You feel like you're also contributing to history by attending the theater and making sure that it stays successful.
And I think all of Macon is proud of it. I know I'm proud of it.
Proud of a $2 million restoration that revived a Macon landmark, an important link to the segregated history of the Douglas Theater's hometown.